What's up, everybody? Welcome to Enlightened Masculinity. A lot of exciting things happen with this show. Just met with the apprentices earlier, talking about how we run our collaborations. If you're just tuning in, and know that we have a lot of collaborations with guys in IMC Nation, movers and shakers, people that participate, arrive, they're ascending, they're getting better, their fashion, their communication, their relationships. It's really exciting to be with a wave of men that are doing this, because it will reach a critical mass. You'll see. There will be many people at my level, and I'll be at the next level, and it'll just, man, it keeps leveling up, because it is an ascension. So I'm Yogi Chris, PhD. If this is your first episode, leave a review already. Go ahead. I told Tony does all the posting, and I was like, I'll tell people in the very beginning, leave a review. We got 17 reviews on Apple. Pretty soon, one day somebody will listen to this show where I just called out 17, and they'll look, and it'll be like 700 or 7,000 reviews. It'd be like, man, that was when there was only 17 reviews. This is episode 210, for anybody who's wondering. 210 episodes of just this show. I have 3 other shows that have less episodes. Okay. The title of this is Living with a Master Pickup Artist and #1 Seducer on Earth. I was thinking about it, and he doesn't claim to be the #1 pickup artist on Earth, especially since he learned pickup from a lineage. Everything here is on lineage. And so the best system of pickup is the mystery method, because it's so integrated with group sets, group dynamics. So whereas many other kinds of pickup are kind of lone wolf pickup and don't consider the group, and there is everybody has all kinds of game. Game is everywhere. Everybody's running their game in life. So just because you don't study game doesn't mean you don't use game. It might mean you don't got game, but your game is whatever you're doing. You might not think of it as a strategy, but if you're repeating the moves over and over throughout your life, it's a strategy. It might not be a well thought out strategy. It might not be even a conscious strategy, but that's the strategy of the system. It's not random. If you're doing the same thing again, it doesn't happen again. So what are your decisions that you're making in relationships and social dynamics to get ahead? Or whatever. What's your social awareness about things? Your game is whatever, your habits or whatever. And so mystery method has hacked game in a way that just gets to the core. And Arash took it further than that, but he wouldn't claim to be over mystery in terms of pickup. But as far as a seducer, when we think of seduction, it's a word that for a while, I would hear people talk about it as just leading the mind astray, and trying to kind of make it asexual in that way, where it wasn't always about sex. But I think there are a lot of other words that kind of sort of mean lead the mind astray already, like influence or persuade or convince someone or whatever, even manipulate. And so what sets seduction apart is it does have that kind of sexuality, a sexual undertone, or a sexual kind of target, or whatever. Or even sensuality we could put in there. So it doesn't, but what is sensuality really pointing to is that sexuality, or nurturance or femininity or whatever. So as the #1 seducer, which would be what? Well, if you read The Art of Seduction, which is like a textbook, maybe the textbook on seduction, very thorough, very good. The seduction is multi-month or multi-year. It is dealing with relationships, dealing with sex, dealing with all kinds of manipulate, but social maneuvering and leveraging by both men and women. And the way that men and women do it are differently. How men but even when you look at it, there's all kinds of energy dynamics going on that transcends the gender. So the physical gender, how men and women are acting towards each other. Like the alpha is the alpha in the room. It's the alpha over who. It could be an alpha female that might not be stable, but it depends on the choice. Maybe it's a bunch of pathetic guys or whatever. Maybe she's super, who knows? So there's an energy that's playing out in the dynamic, but then there's also like the male and the female gender by the body or whatever. And so seduction is this, like, it's like a thorough, like when we think of pickup, it's easy to see it as a contrast to pickup because there are pickup artists who, what is that? How do we define that? It's helpful to look at seduction and relationships to contrast with pickup to help define its borders. What is it? And it's kind of arbitrary, you know, and we're nerding out on the subject or whatever, but it's no small thing being a master pickup artist. It's no small thing being the #1 seducer on earth. Like, that's not a small thing. It's not a small thing living with him. So we're breaking it down, and I think people will like it because recently we were looking at the EM episode statistics, and 2 recent episodes did really, really well. And I was like, man, we renamed them because we saw how they could do even better because the title was good, but we did it better by saying going to strip clubs with a master pickup artist, because that's what it is. And that's why the experiences are part of why it's so incredible. Being the #1 seducer adds a flavor to being a master pickup artist that isn't available just as a master pickup artist. There are master pickup artists who are not great seducers. And so that it adds that thing to it. The pickup is like pick up a girl. What would you think of when you think of picking up a girl? Like, what does that mean to pick up a girl? Like, it's probably, you can process that language. You probably heard it before even. Maybe you've even said it. So picking up a girl, does that mean having sex with her? Does that mean bouncing her to a new location? Just get her from wherever you met her and get her to go with you somewhere else? Does that mean getting her number so you talk later? What's the pickup? Is all of that the pickup? But then it becomes one of those words that it's like, well, we use love. I love this podcast. But then I say to my mom, I love you, Mom. Is that the same love? So, what is the pickup? Well, if systematizing it, the pickup ends at sex. So pickup is attraction, comfort, seduction. It's opening the conversation, demonstrating value, just demonstrating you're not interested in her sex while you demonstrate value. She indicates interest. You qualify her interest by noticing what's special about her to you that makes her interest validated, validates her interest. So it starts this dynamic where it's now she's chasing you, which feels good to her when she finds something worth chasing. It feels good to him to be chased. But that means there must be real value there. And then that's just the attraction phase of the mystery method. Some people might call that the pickup. Whatever. They're not using scientific terms. They're not going to get the same results because they're measuring things differently. So how can you build the same house? So then what you do is comfort. How you do that is there's the system to it. So you change locations or change time, or both, change time and locations, and conversation, changing lots of locations, more and more conversation, trust building, connection. You get to know each other. You still like each other through that whole phase of a lot of time of building comfort, trust, and connection with each other. But meanwhile, you need to be physically intimate, escalating from all the way from a handhold and a kiss to, hugging, caressing, maybe moving her hair, like all of the little pieces between having no contact to kissing, hand-holding, to hugging, to embracing, to eventually getting hot and heavy. Now we're getting into seduction. All the while you were building comfort. That's the comfort phase. So seduction is, it starts in the location where you'll have sex. That's the seduction location. You could have seduction here, there, and we're talking about there's the seduction phase of pickup. Seduction phase of the pickup. There's also seduction in life, but there's the seduction phase of the pickup, which is where you change from comfortable, trust, connected to how are we going to get to sex from here? So in the right location, movement, she gives last minute resistance, which is she's not sure about it. She hesitates, this and that, this and that, this and that. How you handle that, that's going to determine where it goes. And then it goes where it goes. End of the seduction is sex. That's the end of mystery method pickup. That's the pickup. And then mystery says, after you have sex with a girl repeatedly, you can start a relationship with her. And he doesn't go into that. And, he gets beautiful women, some of the most beautiful women on the planet. And he's an incredible guy. When you listen to him or watch him, I've never met him in person, but that's Arash's teacher, and who I live with Arash. That's the master pickup artist. So Arash was mentored by him and his other master students, and got really good at the mystery method, the method of picking up a girl. But then what do you do? What's the relationship? That's what I might call seduction, because it's only going to last as long as you keep her choosing you. How do you get her to choose you? That's the seduction. So I live with the #1 seducer because he's able to get a very, very beautiful, high value, high marketplace value, or what you call, is it the market value? I forget what they call it about the woman. Yeah, her replication value, but like her mating value, or maybe dating, whatever. Her value out dating to guys. Like, it's not measured in dollars or whatever, but like there's a value. Different guys have different preferences, just like different guys want that TV or this car or that car or this, whatever. So high value, desirable woman. Okay, got her. Okay, now get another one and get them to agree and be okay with that, know about each other. Okay, that takes a lot. Then a third or a fourth. And really what you don't see is all the behind the scenes, that there must be 100 women to make 4 high value women together working, make that dynamic work. They can't be the only 4 women that would decide that. There's a lot of other women that offer pre-selection, right? Or, social proof. And also, yeah, just a lot of opportunities, because that takes skills, skills. The value, I was saying in the beginning, the attraction phase, to attract her, to solicit her interest so that you qualify her, takes real value, or it takes perceived value. She's got to perceive it. It doesn't have to be real. You can dress like a rock star and pretend like it. She thinks you're a rock star. Aren't you Mick Jagger or whatever? If you look like it and act like it. So it's perception of value. But when you have a relationship with the girl, the new girl sees that and thinks, well, was she fooled? He must be who he says he is, because she's treating him like it and she's known him for a while. But she could be dumb. She could be mind controlled. She could be beaten to say that. She could be drugged. So what if you have 2 women that say that? Is he who he says he is? And they're with him for a long time, not just the pickup. You could do some social manipulation the night of, building emotions, building the social leverage because you went over the friend and make them jealous and this and that. But outside of the venue, everybody's energy about it drops because they don't have any commitment to you. You might even forget who you are. You might not be dressed the same or whatever. But to keep that going forward night after night, and takes some, is it real value? It's in the perception of the person, because there are many men who make more money. There's many men who would discredit for the money that's thrown at it, that's done with it. Like, how to actually hold down multiple relationships costs money. But is it the money really that makes it happen, or is that just part of it? Like, it's so because the money is really small compared to so many guys that have a lot more money that couldn't come close, couldn't get one girl at that level, no matter how much money they throw at her. So, the seduction, master pickup artists can get lots of girls. They can get 3-way makeouts, 4-way makeouts, threesomes, foursomes, fivesomes, some of them. Rock stars can too. They're not necessarily pickup artists, but wow, what an art to pick up girls. So it's not pickup art, it's rock star art or rap star art or whatever, and they get some girls. Some of them do. It's an illusion. Remember, they just rent a bunch of really fine females for music videos, put it out video after video, and pretty soon you think that rap star gets a lot of girls, but they don't, because they're weird. Or maybe they do, who knows? Some of them do. You can tell by their interviews. To the guy who gets girls can tell by the interviews, or lives with the guy that gets girls and can contrast and compare, but it's also hard to see someone out of their element. when they're on stage and have $1 million necklace on probably has a big effect on hoes. Or we'll just turn a good girl into a hoe because all women are hoes. The relationship in a lot of ways is teaching the woman how to not be a hoe in her behaviors. In this way, now I'm getting ahead of myself because this is so far ahead. This is so far ahead of normie society in relationships. What did I just say? What did I just say about teaching her not to be a hoe? I just realized that I leaped ahead in logic. But you see, the kind of skill it requires to attract a girl and attract another girl and have her be okay with it over a long term, and then another and another and another. And then what you have is a guy that's in game. He's what we call in pickup, he's in set a lot. So he's constantly engaging with women, not just the same woman over and over, living with her, and not just one or two bouncing back and forth between them, but a third, a fourth, fifth. And then there's like maybe out on the outskirts. Remember, it was built on a woman's fitness center that was built on a martial arts center that was mixed, but then pickup came in, lots of new girls, had to split it up. Women's martial arts and fitness was its own thing for a decade. And so there was a culture there with a lot of women to interact with, to practice all sorts of, and then combined with all these other philosophies that make it that helped it transcend pickup, really. The philosophies of life, just stoicism, of Scientology, of martial arts and mysticism, and things that add flavor to it way beyond pickup. Pickup uses those things. They have gambits for mysticism and tarot, and all of those things can be used. And that's how pickup views those things, is how can I use it to pick up a girl versus becoming a master martial artist or whatever. Because it's the art. So they would look at my PhD. How can I use my PhD to get a girl instead of to get a job or to save the world or whatever? If I was so passionate about saving the world, a pickup artist would look at me and say, how can you use that passion to get a girl? If you don't, so they find where, anyway. So these philosophies played out over a long time with a lot of women, started to reveal wrong decisions or anti-survival or let's say chaotic decisions, like not the right things to do, because it ended up bringing about more suffering than, or it would disrupt the organization of how everything was ordered, how it was structured when you have a man leading a bunch of women. And so there's an evolution of, you could almost call it a rule set or a guiding set of principles. There was an evolution of that was organic, that was, it keeps changing to fit the scenario of the culture, of what's happening. I mean, imagine what happened with masks and all that stuff. But then something interesting started to happen is the rules started to become less. Just more what I would call distilled down, or down to the code, some genetic code behavior, to not so many frivolous rules, but when you are intimate with a lot of women for a long time, for many years, day after day, and the scheduling overlap and period menstruations overlapping and aligning and different, and bird boxing, bitches going fucking bonkers on you for an hour or a day or a week or whatever because they triggered, and the girl is telling you forever like she was never molested or raped, and all of a sudden 5 years later she's like, I have to tell you something, I never told anybody. It's like, man, what else are you hiding? You're so good at hiding things. Or sometimes she'll remember, hey, I remembered something. What the fuck? So the depth of psychology you have to learn is way beyond pickup. But at the same time, you could be so good at that psychology and be terrible at pickup. Because pickup is its own thing. It's how to hold your body, how to speak, how to portray oneself, display oneself, how to merge groups, introduce people to each other, how to have an us versus them, how to name a target and handle an obstacle. There's a different dynamic for that. And then, there's so many levels of it, because how do you operate in a tribe where you have alignment with other guys? Game is all contextual. It's way too big for a book or even a series of books. What's the game when you're at the White House? What's the game when you're at the box at the top of the stadium? What's your game when you're picking up the girl on the street? Depends. What if it's on Melrose Ave, or what if it's fucking under the bridge down there? Is there, so there's a lot of context to it, and there's some bare bones basics of the genetic code and, you know, men and women that Arash is decoding, you could say, teaching to us as he observes it and notices. You know, it's easy to, you know, as one man to get skewed in one's view, but there's a tribe and there's a reflection and there's a trying to duplicate other people are doing what they're doing because they're inspired and motivated to. And, you know, and they contribute, you know, their energy for it because it's that valuable for them. Because what you don't want is to work so hard in life and get that beautiful woman that you really, really want in life and then lose her to a pickup artist. Because she can't handle her shit because nobody ever taught her how to resist a man's charms who was a master at it. But that's what happens when you see from this side of master pickup artists, of actually knowing a master pickup artist. Nobody's safe. You're not safe. You're only safe if you're a tribal member and you're off limits. And so what? So I don't think that that's wrong. I think that's right. Because when I look out at the world, I don't consider any woman that's with a guy that I don't know. I don't even consider the guy. I consider her, if she looks like all happy and like she's creating things and whatever. But really, I think what I'm doing is I'm measuring the effort. I'm like, it would take so much to pull her away from that. Because if she's incredible as a woman and she's showing me any interest, like any 1 degree of interest, but she's a 10.0 on the dime scale. But she's married, has kids, like, you know, stack it on. But she's showing a little interest. I mean, am I done? Would I go for it or not? I don't know if she's done for maybe the master of masters. Maybe if she's seducible, then she's seducible. Whether I go for it, you know, is a measure of one's how much effort is this going to take. Do I see a strategy? Am I just going to fucking roll the dice here? Probably. But then where's the skill? So that comes from experience and wisdom, and men in this game can really get ahead by hearing other men's stories. They get less duped by women. They leap ahead in evolution. The difference between us and other guys is just so far. But at the same time, it's so close, because what if they study for 5 or 6 years? It's just 5 or 6 years of study. That's how close they are. So it's not like that far. But at the same time, like in consciousness, how close will they get if they don't study, but they just try to learn from cause and effect? Lifetimes. You'd have to tap into the information, the line of information. Very powerful podcast. I knew what I was going to talk about. I had meditated right before this. You know, so if you like it, like, review, comment, like, share, tell us about it. Join the newsletter. Sign up for the Beast Gathering. Adrian Garcia, sign up for the Beast Gathering. Listening to this, sign up for the Beast Gathering. All right. Are there any comments or questions? I don't know if I fully finished the point about living with Master Seducer, but I can just take a quick pause if you guys got a comment or question. Go for it. Intermission. Okay, we'll take a 10-second intermission. Here's commercial. Okay, 1 second. After intermission, we'll come back with question.
How can I be what you wanted to be when your heart's not open?
Okay, good. Do you have a question? Are those notes?
Yeah, I have a two-part question.
Those are notes for this show?
Not for this
Oh,
show. I
okay.
have one note.
All right,
for
go
this
ahead.
show. Well, I had a question about when you were talking about the perception of value
Mhm.
and what happens if you really get to know her or for anyone, and then she like does she start to question you or anything like that? And what about if she's showing a perception of value and you think she's
I missed it. Say it again.
like if you think she's better than she is, and then you get to know the real her and vice versa. If you're really demonstrating a perception of value, but there is no value there. I'm not saying that's the case for you.
Another way of saying demonstrating a perception of value is called showing interest. Demonstrating a perception of value is what? Showing interest.
Oh, so I'm not
Well, I don't know what the question is.
defining
I'm
it correctly.
maybe
That's what it is.
I don't know.
I thought it was how good the person is and how good you are and how you show them like how good you are to get them interested in you. And you're saying
That's a demonstrate. So when you show how good you are, that's called demonstrating your value.
yeah, that. But you said that it doesn't have to be completely real value, that it could be like you could fake it to get to attract her. Or just
Yeah.
seduce her.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then my question was tailing that if she also does that and then you get to know each other, how do you handle with the discrepancies? Or
Mhm.
anyone, how would
Mhm.
anyone handle?
Right. Discrepancies is a phrase we call incongruent.
Okay.
So you're either congruent with your value or you're incongruent. And so that's the art of it is you practice. So like if I was wrestling, I would learn a takedown. And so I go to take the guy down and I get it. And I'm like, oh yeah, but now what? Well, now you need to learn the next move. So if you have some gambit or some demonstration of value and she gets attracted to you and you use that to get her to the next step, then you're like, now what? You learn whatever the next step is. You got to demonstrate more value. You got to neg so that she doesn't think you're sexually interested, or you got to move her to a new location, isolate her from other people, or whatever. Carry the conversation. Like in the pickup, if you build all this value, let's say that she goes out for a night with you and you're with your tribe and everybody shows you respect, and so she sees you as this like great guy and she sleeps with you that night, and then the next day some of your tribe members are punking on you or something, or just fucking or maybe she finds out, let's say she finds out then you don't have a car and you're or let's just say the next day, let's not go some material. Let's just say the next day you're down and depressed. The guy. So the guy, tribal group gave him all kinds of props and whatever, and it was a great event, a little party, house party, who knows. And the girl came over, really liked him, and it was good. A little bit of alcohol, not a lot. She's not over drunk. He's not over drunk, but like it's loose, and she fools around with him. Let's say she doesn't sleep with him. She just like they get to second base or something. Then the next day they interact, and let's say he gets angry on something silly, stupid, just nonsense, but gets way too attached to it, way too deep into it. So he's not stable. Maybe because there was no alcohol, he had withdrawal or something. She didn't know he was an alcoholic, or maybe she didn't know that he was on coke or something, and that's why he was so good energy. So when she learns more about him, oh, that's why. See, but she was attracted to good energy. She wasn't attracted to coke, or she was attracted to him not caring, not being nonchalant or whatever. She wasn't attracted to him being drunk, but maybe she just didn't. So it's a perception of value. It doesn't even necessarily be that he's trying to fake it. He's just living his strategy, trying to do his game. And success or not, that's what he's going for, success. But in the pickup arts, let's say you learn something and you end up seducing her with some things or some techniques or whatever. Yeah, incongruence will be the problem. You are learning to, not just be that guy, but kind of push the horizon of what that guy is and keep becoming it. So it becomes this, at least in this art, it's because in this IMC, because it's we recognize and acknowledge that the wave of the culture, of the evolution of people, it's organic, it keeps moving forward. So we got to stay ahead of the wave to keep surfing it. You can't just stop and then the wave passes you by. So just because you won today, you got to win again tomorrow. So the game is evolving, and I think that answered the question pretty thoroughly.
That was perfect.
Yeah, sure. Ars Valeris. Okay. So Van asks, do you share intimate details with your interactions with females, with guys? That sentence sounds weird, but you know what I'm asking. Do you share intimate details with your interactions with females, with the guys? It depends on who the female is, depends on intimate, how you define that, how intimate is intimate enough, too intimate, depends on the guy, depends on the question. There's a lot of dependencies there. I would say in general, yeah, I've shared intimate details, or I've shared details of my intimacy with guys, like just to answer yes to that question because it's so general. But I mean, like, there's so many limits. I don't like. First of all, nobody really asks, so I don't really talk about it. I'm not in a position to really talk about it. What good is it to anybody to hear about it? Now, if I just have to express myself on something, it's kind of it comes from a childish place. The question and the answer comes from a childish place. But at the same time, I live with the number one seducer on earth, and he shares intimate details in different ways of different girls, but there's also limits and boundaries. And I don't know exactly what those are because I don't know what's being withheld. I don't know what's not being said. I just know where he's like cutting it off and like, oh, I won't say anymore and whatever. And I learned that. And that again comes from an evolved sense of what is going to be destructive to this dynamic and what is not. Considering that I have a tribe that I'm nurturing also with knowledge and wisdom, and there's goodness, but then there's only a $97 entry. So who the fuck, there could be anybody in there. But what about the $700 entry program? Or what about the $1,500 entry when you're in VIP coming around for the party? Or whatever, or when you did like I did in Fernando and Sultan, you did the $25,000 program. What was divulged to us? So, it's a reference of how to do it, what works as the number one on the planet, top in the planet. Writing the textbook as it happens. Actually, more like I'm writing it, but just as a secondhand, whatever, because he doesn't write it down. So, does that answer that question? Anything else? Maybe after I'll eat. We good? We could just post this. I knew it would be a great show, but I thought there would be like probably 1,500 people on. Yeah, should see it. There was a bunch of people on. Did they just leave? Whoa. Oh well. The recording will do well because it's a really dope title, and it was a dope show. So living with the number one seducer on earth, and it's been a trip. It's such a journey into the psychology of the human, because that's what's necessary for seduction. And for this really long lasting kind of seduction of multiple relationships that any man would want if he could just step into it and it made sense to him and he didn't have so much struggle with it. If a man stepped into my body and tried to run my relationships, he'd fail because he doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't know how to handle problems. And so I can only imagine at that level the problems and whatever that come up, and the orderliness that's needed to keep it together and so organized. It's really dope. And that might not be, it's not fathomable to people, but as you get closer and closer, it just makes more and more sense. And if I saw how it would, if any man saw how available it was, couldn't help but be inspired deeply and genetically. But at the same time, when faced with the mountain that you'd have to climb to get there, would probably just settle for less. I don't know that I got settle in me. Not yet, anyway. Maybe when I'm turned 60 or 70, maybe I'll get tired. I'm sure it just changes at some point. What's the best key your teacher has given you to unlock seduction, if you're allowed to share? I would say, it's just the key to seduction is the key to life, because you got to be so self-aware because otherwise your seduction will fall apart at some point. You just so to become self-aware, maybe that makes it sound so lofty, spiritually lofty, but it's like to get good at this game of life is two things: the ability to imagine and communicate. It's imagination and communication, or communication, imagination. They help each other. They're related to each other. Obviously, if you really think about how communication, it comes from, you think about it first, and then it's like, that's imagination. So imagination and communication, getting your ideas across and received, is the keys here. And that's what I learned in my first one-on-one. All right. So everybody click the links, join the newsletter, join the events that we got coming up, imcbase1.com, leave a review, and I'll see you in the next show. Go to yogabliss.com, Yoga Bliss Chris on Instagram, and find me so you see posts about it. And I'll see you next episode. Os. Namaste.